Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3. We are back live. I hope everybody had a good 4th of July weekend. We're going to talk about a guy who had a great 4th of July weekend. Felix Ojo, the newest commit to the Texas Tech Red Raiders, 5-star offensive lineman from Texas, who I think in another era would have gone to Texas or Texas A&M or Oklahoma or Michigan or Ohio State. But he's going to Texas Tech, and Ari, it was a fun Friday watching the news come out in different ways.
Yeah. I was on a boat and I was kind of tracking it. I didn't know I was a boat person. I'm a boat person now. And that I'm never going to get on one again. The thing that I think is interesting about this, and it will be the continued talking point, is he just went there for money. He would never go there for any other reason if it weren't for money. And what does it say about somebody who went somewhere for money? And the thing that I have said over and over and over again, and will continue to be true until we do not have to have this conversation anymore, is the compensation package, from my standpoint, is part of the overall sales pitch of everything that you get there. Like, it's not just because of money, it's part of it. And like, the thing about it is that there's no denying where he would have gone, Andy, right? Like, had this not existed, he would have gone to Texas or Ohio State or A&M or some other place. And that would have been because that was not part of the whole sales pitch. The sales pitches have changed. So, like, if you were somebody who was a pro playoff expansion person, if you are somebody who wants more parity in the sport, or if you're somebody who is tired of seeing the same 3 teams win the national title every other year, then like you should be rooting for this. Like the thing that is so funny to me is that there's vitriol. And it's like 90% of the people who watch this show pretend like they want there to be parity, but it feels like the entire public is resentful of this. And I don't understand.
That's exactly what I was thinking Friday as I was watching everybody say, well, this is ruining the sport. You people have complained.
You people.
For how many years about the same 3 teams winning the national title? Do you know how you avoid that? You get players like this to go to other schools. How do you do that? With money. That is how you do it.
I don't know about this. And I actually forget where Kelvin Banks is from. I don't think he's from Texas. He was from, do you remember where he's from?
I'll look it up.
It doesn't matter where he's from. But what if Kelvin Banks was not on Texas's football team last year? Would they have made it to the SEC championship game? Maybe.
Trevor Gooseby may be a number 1 pick or a first-round pick too, so maybe, yeah.
I mean, maybe, but I'm just saying, like, if you like remove a very important piece of the puzzle to a very good team, things change. And Texas
is from the Houston area, by the way. He's from Humboldt, Texas.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. He was committed to Oregon, I think, at one point, right? Am I making that up?
Yeah.
I can't remember. I actually last night, my family and I went to dinner with Bruce Feldman's family, a nice little taco joint, and we were talking about you, Andy, for like 5 minutes. And,
oh no!
And Bruce said Andy is amongst one of the smartest people I know, in that he can recall information off the top of his head in a way that I've never seen before. And then Christy, his wife, said Andy should go on Jeopardy. And I'm like, I think Andy would actually be pretty good on Jeopardy. Anyway, I don't even want to I'll take your ego. I'll give you your ego boost. But
thank you.
It is so funny to me because I feel like there's confusion. It's like, do you want as a mass? Now, obviously, A&M fans don't want him to go to Texas. And, Oklahoma fans don't want Ojo to go to Texas. But in totality, does an Ohio State fan, a Michigan fan, a Florida State fan want that kid to go to Texas? And why is everybody upset? Like, I just don't understand.
It's different. It's different. That's why people don't like it. And not everybody doesn't like it. Like anybody because this is what we told you guys, because this is what smart people told us before all this happened. Like, remember all the ADs were like, well, this will just widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And the economists said, no, it won't. Like, basic economics tells you that it will spread things out. So, like, the ADs, of course, were lying because they wanted to protect the status quo. They knew what would happen, too. This is what happens. Somebody who would have never gone to this school is now going to go to this school. And what I mean by never gone, like, The rarest person in recruiting is the athletic big man, Ari. This guy may not be good. We don't know if he's going to be good or not. But we know physically he is exactly what you want. And there are so few people built like him in the world that they're very hard to get. Like the people who look like the number one cornerback in the country, there's a lot of those, relatively speaking. The people who look like the number one offensive or defensive tackle in the country, there are very few of them.
Yeah, much fewer. Here's the thing, and Vance's are one of our best listeners and most supportive people, so I like to highlight his comments. But to compare this to relationships, I feel like people have a problem differentiating having a stable financial situation, a gold digger. And I think that's true, but at the same time, too, if he is a gold digger, let him be a gold digger. Who cares? Let me ask you this, Andy, just point blank. Are you for Texas Tech being awesome? I am.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be crazy if Texas Tech was like a top 5 team and just running the entire Big 12 out of Lubbock? Like that would be entertaining as hell. Like it's a question we've been asked a bunch of times in the mailbag shows. Do you see an ACC or Big 12 team ever winning another national title? And I'm always like, no. But guess what? If Texas Tech can start recruiting at this level, and I don't know if they can. I don't know if they can accumulate enough of these types of players, but if they could, then the answer might be yes. And here's the other thing that I had to, and I always come back to this because I did some reporting and I did this story 4 years ago or 3 years ago. But I went to Waxahachie High School where Calvin Simpson Hunt went to high school, and he was a fast rising corner in this class. And have I told the story on the show? I'm sure I have.
I don't think so.
But he was a person who was obsessed and in love with Texas Tech when Joey McGuire first got there. Texas Tech found him very early in the process when he was a 3-star prospect because of their mechanism of like measurables and measuring athleticism. And then he ended up turning out to be a fringe 5-star player at the end, and then he signed with Ohio State. And like the thing that I think is so funny is that the relationship people out there, it's like, oh, well, I want a guy who wants the relationships. It's like Calvin Simpson Hunt has had and did have a huge, deep, loving relationship with Joey McGuire and his staff. And he went to Ohio State because Joey McGuire's relationship, though better, could not trump the package that Ohio State offered in terms of what they're going to give you as a developer.
They put corners in the first round routinely. So they win national championships. They win Big Ten or they haven't won Big Ten championships. You could also say that like
Calvin Simpson Hunt decided with his wallet then he was being compensated differently. Yep. But like if you want to play the relationships game, we've had Joey McGuire on the show. Has anybody ever met this guy? He makes you feel like he's your best friend in 5 minutes. Like Joey McGuire is one of the coolest coaches in the entire country and probably be a first-round pick in the who would you want to eat lunch with draft. You want to talk about somebody who knows how to build relationships, probably nobody in the country you could say is probably better at it than Texas Tech in terms of a personability standpoint. It's like so funny. Texas Tech has lost so many battles over the course of the last 5 years with elite level players in the state of Texas in spite of relationships. So now they're winning it this way and they're assholes now? Like, what do you want them to do?
Exactly. This is my whole point. I'm
gonna write this today, by the way.
I was gonna do it too. So one of us needs to.
Whatever, we'll talk about it. But it's really funny.
But it is really interesting to me because, okay, if we're going to talk about the money part of it, and we have to get into the specifics of the money because it's that part's interesting too. That's actually a little bit of a media story, that part of it. But to get a 5-star offensive tackle again, they're rare. Like there just aren't that many of those humans on the planet. If you're Texas Tech, you have to offer significantly more money than everybody else. It's not like you just have to offer the most. It has to be so much more that they can't say no. And that's different.
You have to, it's not just money. You have to offer enough money where your entire compensation package outside of money, that means facilities, that means location, that means conference, that means history of developing draft picks, all the things that you weigh are equal or superior to your competition. And where you are your program in terms of stature and where you stand in the bar graph of how good you are at all those things. Probably there's an algorithm that can figure out how much you would have to offer to overcome those things. And I think Texas Tech is I've never even been to Lubbock, so I'm not going to pretend to know. I've never been to this. I've never. It's
a wonderful place.
I've been to Amarillo. I've never been there. I don't know where they are in that standpoint, but in terms of like compete for national championship and developing left tackles for the first round and all those things, I can imagine they're probably not as high as some of the teams that they were competing against. Not probably.
You don't have to imagine.
So they have to use money in order to level the playing field to make your entire package the most marketable. I think it's always, maybe that's just like a word salad to say pay the most, but you weigh everything when you have a job. Where is it located? Who are your coworkers? Who are you working for? Who's your boss? Or what are the details of your job? What are your responsibilities? How much am I being paid? Obviously, being paid is probably the thing that matters the most, but you weigh all those things. And when I was coming to On3, I was like, oh, I get to work with Andy again every day. That was also part of it. They want to invest in our podcast in a way that our previous stop didn't. That was a part of it. Yes, I got paid more, but like I weighed all the things. And Andy will tell you, I wasn't 100% on board right away just because of the money, but the money helped. And you know what? I'm happy I did it. So like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like every single time we get a commitment to a atypical place as a result of a vast NIL deal, we have to have the same conversation again. And
well,
the thing that I want to know
here's Kenneth in the chat. Good players shouldn't go to mid teams, you guys. Okay, how do mid teams ever become good teams then? You just want them to always be the same?
And like Kenneth Love is like a smart dude, and he's been around and has consumed my stuff, and we've interacted a lot. And it's like I kind of understand, and I think he's a fan of a big time team. I can't remember which one it is, but like I think that people who are like if you're a Bama fan, you're more likely to think that. If you're an Ohio State fan, you're more likely to think that. But if you are a fan of the sport and you want equality and you want parity, maybe not equality, that's the wrong word, parity, then you have to celebrate the times in which we are leveling the playing field. The thing that's so insane to me is that, oh, he's an Ohio State fan. Okay, so if he's an Ohio State fan, you can understand why he thinks that. Why do you think he thinks that? Because he wants Ohio
he's scared
State
that
players.
Maybe they won't go to Ohio State and suddenly Ohio State won't be as dominant as it's been. Yeah, I got it.
But also like as a fan of the actual sport overall, like Ohio State might be hurt by that, but so guess who's directly hurt by that? Texas, a team that Ohio State will likely play in the playoff this year. Like everybody is going to get hurt the same. And I think better spread of talent will mean we don't know who's making the playoff in October, which is fun, right? Like we should be celebrating this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I think we should be celebrating it. I don't think we should be criticizing it.
If we want parity, this is how it happens. Stop listening to the ADs and the coaches who just want to protect the money they make. This is how parity happens.
Andy, I don't follow Major League Baseball that much. Like I have a fantasy team and I share it with a friend, but like I don't like follow the ins and outs of who's signing where. But like let's say Julio Rodriguez signed a super max deal with the Detroit Tigers. Would people be like, "Oh,
yeah." You know, like the Tigers have a pitcher, Scooble. He's in a contract year. Like, I'm sure the Dodgers can throw millions and millions of more dollars at him.
Who's the really good player the Mets just paid $1 billion to? Juan Soto. That's right. If Juan Soto would have signed that deal or a supermax deal with the Royals, would people have called him like a scumbag?
No, they'd have been good with that.
Or would people have celebrated that? Like I think
they would have been like, "Oh, finally, the Royals are spending some money." And Juan Soto, yeah.
It's like, shouldn't we be finally? The Big 12 is spending some money.
Well, it kind of was like that with the Mets when he signed with the Mets, even though they are in New York.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean that's the thing. And now the other piece of this I find equally interesting. I can understand people's frustration with this part of it because it was fascinating the way this all came out. And so it came out, it was Friday when this came out, right?
Friday.
So when it came out, there was an ESPN story that quoted his agent. This was not a sources said. This is his agent is saying. So Derek Shelby of Prestige Management, that's Felix Ojo's agent. He tells Eli Letterman from ESPN, he did a deal that is a 3-year, $5.1 million fully guaranteed deal. So the agent is saying that on the record. So Eli publishes that. Very quickly. And I don't think I'm talking out of school here because they didn't call me, they called other people. But people from Texas Tech called reporters at various outlets to say, this is not true. It is not that much. It might be able to get to that much depending on how the regulatory environment evolves in the next 2 years. But in terms of revenue share money, he's getting about $775,000 a year, which adds up to about $2.3 million over 3 years, which is still incredible money for a guy who's never played a snap in college. But it's interesting because, and this is why I think it's kind of a media story, we're so trained with the NFL that the second a contract comes out, we know exactly where it's coming. Like, oh, this is the one the agent leaked. Let's wait till the team leaks it to find out what the actual guarantee is, what the real money is. And that's exactly what happened here. It's just we're not sophisticated enough to understand that.
And it's obviously in the agent's best interest to bolster the numbers.
Of course. How many phone calls do you think he got?
Yeah. So. Because it makes him look like he's doing a very good job. And by and large, he did. Like, I'm not saying he didn't, but like, you have to understand motive and stuff too in dealing with agents. So, I'm not upset about anything.
No.
I went to bed with a smile on my face on Friday night. So I don't know. I think that, and also too, Texas Tech is very likable to me. Like,
well, and it would be, look, it would be the same to me if this was TCU, if this was Baylor, like if this was SMU in a different conference, like somebody who wants to compete at the highest level, has some money, and they're actually investing. Like, that's the thing. Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, all those schools. How did they get good? By spending money on football. They just spend it in different ways. You can talk about all the under the table and all that, whatever. That actually was a pretty small percentage of the money in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
They were investing in football more than other people were.
Stadium renovations, waterfalls in the locker rooms. Everybody gets a personal Xbox, meal plans, trainers,
better coaches,
equipment, better coaches, all these things. It's not just, and it's funny because I think people think, oh, well, Alabama paid and LSU paid and Ohio State paid. It's like, even if they did pay, what do you think it was like in a percentage standpoint of how much money they spent overall on everything else? Like 1%, even 1%.
Yeah, I remember what we said a few weeks ago. The bag man was broke. The bag man was broke. This is that locker room waterfall money actually going to the players now.
Yeah. Now, I don't know. I'm sure Texas Tech also made a new facility recently too, didn't they? So I don't know if they have a waterfall, but I remember when Ohio State put their waterfall in, I was like, wow, look, everybody, we have a waterfall. It was like, also too, like you walk by it and it's like, it was really cool at first. And it's just like, you walk by it every day and it's just like everything else. Like, it's like how much, and I don't know how much it costs to make an interior water feature in your home. Have you ever looked into it?
Well, I mean, I put in a pool, so, but
you know, hey,
it's expensive.
We got a quote for a pool. Okay. So anybody who, I'd love to have all you over to my house one day, but Andy's been to my house. He's actually coming here tonight. We don't have a backyard. Okay. We have a front yard that's massive and it's off to the side of the house. So it kind of like, we live off of a ravine and we don't have any like neighbors behind us, but it's like the city of Dallas owns anyway, we thought about putting a pool into the front yard and then putting up shrubbery to make it private because it's that big. Like you could build like a mini casita in our front yard. It's that big. Guess how much the quote was for a pool and privacy shrubbery?
Oh, and the shrubbery's the killer there.
Wait,
I'm guessing it was $200,000.
$170,000.
Okay, and so in real life, after all that's done, you're spending $300,000.
Is that what? Yeah, you told me. You're like, yeah. They tell you the quote.
Yeah, just multiply it by 2. Yeah,
yeah. And I was like, okay, well, we're not going to do that, but it is insane how much it costs to make a pool. So, but I would think that the water feature would be what, 50 grand, 25 grand?
Oh, it's probably not that much.
It was really high. It's a really high.
We talk about those things, and it's really not that much in the grand scheme, but it is funny because it's totally unnecessary.
A big part of adulthood, though, is like finding out how much stupid stuff costs. You know how much it costs to like put a gate around your backyard?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and that was
part of our pool project.
If you would have told me when I was 22, like how much it cost to put a fence in around your backyard, I would have like keeled over. Like you know how much money? Like, what's the thing that surprised you the most in terms of how expensive it is?
It was the fence.
The fence.
It was the fence. Yeah.
And 2 sofas for me.
Yes, a good sofa is so expensive.
Yeah. Because I got my sofa when I was living in Columbus. By the way, Britt likes to tease me about this, but like every single thing in my apartment, because I lived in a like 1-bedroom bachelor pad on High Street in Columbus, I bought at Office Max. And it was fine. But like when we bought our couch here, I was like, they want what for what now?
But the thing is, when you buy a very cheap couch, you can tell the difference. Sometimes you get lucky because you have like when I was younger, I was a big like, oh, family members getting rid of a couch, I'll take your couch. We found when I was in college, we found a couch by the dumpster in the apartment complex, and like, this is a perfectly good couch. So yeah, it became our couch.
Also, Scott just said in the chat that we need to improve my home improvement skills. So we have a shower in our master shower had 2 hooks that are in the shower to like hang towels.
Yeah.
Far enough away to get splashed on, but so my daughter was in the shower and she grabbed a towel and yanked the hook down.
Pulled the hook down. Yeah.
And there was like paste on the back of it. And I was like looking at it. And then the tile, there was like paste on the tile, it was like adhesive. And there was this like mechanism inside and like an Allen wrench area. And what was supposed to happen was you were supposed to drill one of the pieces,
right, anchor it in, yes,
anchor it in, and then tighten it so that can't happen. So just so you guys know,
we know Ari's builder was in a hurry.
Yeah, it bothered me.
Yeah,
if that happened, then what else in this house is
right? And of course, that's not the easiest thing to do in the world, because when you're drilling into tile, there's a chance that you may crack the tile, and now you have to replace the tile. So
yeah,
they were trying to save a little time, and
yeah,
you became me.
Anyway, I went to Home Depot. I'm like, hey, do you guys have any more adhesive? Not knowing that I just thought it was adhesive was the right way to do it. And the guy goes, who did this? And I was like,
who hurt you, Ari?
He goes, who did that to you? And I was like, the people who built the house that we still can't afford. And he goes, yeah, they did a really terrible job. What you're supposed to, and then I hired a handyman, and he came over and did it for $100. But like, because Britt got mad at me, and I was just like, what do you want me to do? You want me to drill in a tile? You know how that's going to go for us? We're going to have to do an entire bathroom remodel. Like, there are certain things I will attempt. You would agree with me that like this is not something that I should have attempted on.
I would not I would not recommend you. I don't think I would do that unless I knew I was changing out the tile or doing like.
But guess what? The guy was here for 30 minutes, and the hooks are back in, and I pulled off the other one that was, and he did both the right way. And home ownership is buying a house and then quietly making everything that's wrong with it work again. That's what I've learned.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Well, and Joey McGuire is very loudly trying to make Texas Tech work again, because we have the Felix Ojo. Look, he's not even playing yet. And the thing is, one more thing before we move on from this topic, because there are several other topics we need to get to, including Alabama's incredible recruiting heater, what's going on with Jake Retzlaff right now.
Yeah.
So they are taking an incredible risk here. And this is something that I don't think I would take this risk if I were Ohio State or Texas or Georgia, because I don't have to. We don't know if this guy's going to be able to be plug and play. Like, Tennessee spent a lot of money on David Sanders, the #1 offensive tackle recruit in the class of 2025. It looks like he's going to start for them this year as a true freshman. But you don't know that coming in. Like, Felix Ojo is 6'5.5", 6'6". He's 275. It's the perfect frame. Like, the idea is you pack 40 more pounds on that frame, and when he heads off to the NFL, he's 6'6", 315, and moves really well. But you don't know if you can play him as a freshman. It's a crapshoot with linemen.
And there will be a sunken cost if it doesn't work.
Right. Are you paying for nothing like Tennessee did Nico's freshman year. Like you have to accept that that's part of the risk too. But that's also another way you can get that guy, because Ohio State and Texas don't have to take that risk.
Yeah. Also, too, like the Browns are paying Deshaun Watson $200 million a year.
Yes.
Like it happens in the pros too. So,
well, and that's that's what I clapped back at Dari Noka from the SEC Network the other day, because he said what could possibly go wrong? I'm like, somebody may have been paid more than they were worth. Like that's literally the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah, and also
that happens all the time everywhere.
And also too. And here's the flip side of it that no one ever wants to acknowledge. But if Felix Ojo is being paid too much in the long run for what he's worth, then he made a savvy business decision.
True. Yeah.
Because that's the thing. It's like everyone's like, well, why take the guaranteed money now? Go to Bama, get developed, and go to the pros. But it's like, if you stink, then you're a millionaire, and you already, that's an insurance policy. So like that, to me, maybe he won't. I think that there's certain level of athleticism and size and capability that makes you bust proof. Like there's no way he's gonna stink. Like he will start there for multiple years and he will be fine.
And there's a good chance he could start as a freshman, because he's 275 now going into a senior year of high school. You put him in the college weight room, which almost always, especially for the bigger guys, there's an immediate set of gains. I mean, you could have him at 6'6", 295 playing next year, which that, if he's athletic, which he seems to be, that will make you a serviceable tackle in the Big 12. Like the older edge rushers may eat you up, but I mean, you're probably going to catch on pretty fast.
I think like complete sunken cost is can't play, won't play.
Yeah.
Like, you put somebody in there who struggles their freshman year, then that's also the same thing as a rookie struggling in their NFL contract.
Caden Proctor struggled as a freshman in Alabama, and Caden Proctor's maybe the number one. Spencer Fano in Utah and Caden Proctor, your number 1 and 2 tackle prospects in the country this year.
I don't think that
going to the draft.
I don't think that they have to be a all conference player right out of the gate for that to be solid money. And also too, I know that like Texas Tech is really excited about this year and is hoping to compete for a Big 12 championship. But if you do this year over year, then you're not going to be as reliant on the first one. Like they're more reliant on Ojo than they would be on other players 3 or 4 years down the line if this is a regular thing.
Yeah.
Like they might be plugging in their 5-star freshmen in 2028 who will be joining 2 or 3 or 4 junior 5-star players who have been in the system for 3 years. And he's just an accessory or a nice little piece to add into a team that's already very good. So this to me isn't just an investment in a single player. I think this is a message to the sport that, hey, we're here to play. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that to me is exciting. Yeah. It's not just, did they pay this guy enough and will he be worth it? It's Texas Tech is playing big boy football now. That's a press release.
Let's talk about a school that's been playing big boy football that we thought when the coach retired, maybe they wouldn't as much anymore. But Alabama's recruiting the past 2 weeks has looked exactly like it did under Nick Saban. So let's throw this out. Alabama now has 4 5-star players in the Rivals industry rankings. They have 6 top 100 commits in this class. Oh, no, 7. Excuse me. Or is it 8? It's 8. It's 8. Yeah. So this is, and most of these guys have committed in the past 2 weeks. So Alabama not going away on that front. Now, we just talked about how Texas Tech is trying to break into that group by getting one of these guys.
Right.
Alabama just got a bunch of these guys.
Yeah, I also don't think that, like, I don't know. The thing that is interesting is, and we've spoken regularly on this show about the mega class that A&M put together a few years ago and how it didn't work out, right? Do you think that we will ever get to a point where Texas Tech or a team comes out of nowhere and doesn't just do this for one player, but does it with 14 players? Like, does it like in a place where they like land an Alabama or Georgia like class out of nowhere?
We kind of saw it with Ole Miss in 2013. It wasn't quite as deep as one of those classes, but of course they got investigated for that. Now they wouldn't.
I wonder. Well, yeah, but now everybody else will be playing the same sport, and it might still be more difficult. But like the thing that I think is interesting is that we do get bent out of shape, and we just spent 28 minutes talking about Texas Tech and whether or not that's okay. but still the difference between Texas Tech and the teams that are actually going to be competing for a national championship is still night and day. Like, this is a step in the right direction, but they haven't arrived yet. And like, that's the thing too, that I want to also make sure that we're like, keeping the proper perspective of like the 2025 team. Like the 2025 Texas Tech team is going to be much better in theory than previous Texas Tech teams, right? But like, I don't know that I'm viewing them as, this is a team that's going to go out and compete for the national title. I think this is a team that wants to win the Big 12, contend for a playoff spot, but I don't know that their roster is going to be in a place. I've been wrong a million times before, and maybe they'll be special and do something that we don't see coming. But from my understanding of what they have on their roster right now, I think it'll be one of the better Big 12 rosters, but I don't know that it can stay on the same field with Georgia for 4 quarters.
Or Alabama. I mean, the thing is, Alabama has the kind of roster right now.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about the 26 class with these guys they got, but they currently have the kind of roster that can compete for a national title. It's up to Kalen DeBoer to actually do that, but he's doing everything. And this is, I made fun of you. I made fun of you when you wrote that column about him acing his first year, because you said, well, he did everything off the field in the recruiting that he needed to do. And I was like, well, yeah, but he lost 3 games and you can't do that. But he is still doing everything off the field that you should be doing to keep Alabama at the level that you expect it to be.
You're still so wrong about that. Like, I know that I know that Alabama has a standard of winning, and they have to win in last year's on the field.
I know he fell below the standard, but he still aced it. Ace means you got 100%. If you fell below the standard, you didn't.
Alabama goes to the playoff this year and competes for the national title, and players from last year's class are awesome.
Everything's
Bama
fine.
Is back to Bama.
Everything's fine.
That's all I was trying to say. Like he is. The thing that I think is so funny is if Alabama would have gone 11-1 last year, or 10-2 and lost in the SEC championship game, and signed the number 27 class, do you think that would have been better? Like, that would have been way worse.
That also would have. Here's the problem, Ari. You can't say aced about the guy replacing Nick Saban unless he did exactly what Nick Saban would have done, and he didn't. So it's not an either or. It's not if they'd gone 11-1 and had the 27th best recruiting class. No. You're at Alabama. You're supposed to win the national title and have the number 1 recruiting class. Like, that's the job.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. You do Texas Tech. I'm gonna write this today because I'm fired.
Okay, all right, go for it.
He is doing everything off the field that you need to do as Alabama's head coach, and to me, that was the impossible part of replacing Nick Saban. Like, it wasn't like, and I know that like winning is gonna, like, if he sucks on the field this year. Like, that is inexcusable, right? Like, there's no excuse now for Alabama to be 9-3 and to miss the playoff.
I love that you call 9-3 sucking.
Well, for them, it's something that Ralph Russo gets mad at me about. I mean, when I'm talking about a team,
I know by their standard. Yes, I understand.
Standard. Like, I know 9-3 is a good season for most teams, but let me tell you something. I'd fit right in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, for saying they suck at 9-3. Okay, so like, I'm like teleporting myself into an Alabama fan when I'm talking about Alabama. But the fact that he is crushing it on the recruiting trail, if I'm an Alabama fan, like, I am at ease. I might be frustrated about last year. I am at ease that the person who came into my program and never signed a 4-star prospect at all in my entire career coming into this job is doing what you're supposed to do at that level. And I was afraid that he wouldn't be able to do it. I was afraid, and I think Brian Harsin is a bad example because he like almost felt like he had like a moral distaste for recruiting top 100 players. But I was afraid that they would have a hard time, or that they would be stuck in their own ways and try to over-evaluate the way they did at Washington. And like, hey, we got to the national title at Washington. Like, we can go get our 3-star players from Northern California and be just fine. And like, they are not doing that. They're getting the best play. Like, I mean, I had an extensive conversation with Courtney Morgan at the national championship game and wrote a big story for The Athletic about like, here's a person who helped recruit 2 teams at the national championship. And like, if you brought up a 5-star at the national title game, Courtney Morgan was like, oh, that's not recruiting. That's choosing. And like, he almost like scoffed at the notion that like getting a bunch.
Yeah, but you need to choose a little bit too if you can.
Yeah. But I was afraid that Courtney Morgan was going to outsmart himself at Bama and just try to over-evaluate everything. And he's an amazing evaluator, which has been proven time and time again. Seeing what Alabama is doing right now is chicken soup for the damaged Alabama soul, is it not?
Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is.
We're still Bama. Being Bama. We're doing
the
Bama
other thing about it is, now, it's not exactly like the Saban classes because this one is much top-heavier than those Saban classes were, but we'll see because there's still time. But I don't think you can do what those Saban classes did.
The thing about the Saban class thing is that no one's doing that anymore.
You can't. And Nick Saban knew that.
Like, if you go look at Georgia's class, and I think I wrote about that, Georgia has more 3-star prospects committed in their class this year. I think right now, unless it changed over the weekend while I was on Buzzed Island, has 8 3-star prospects in the On3 industry rankings in this class. I don't think at any point going back to 2018 they signed more than 5.
Right, because certain guys still cost, and they're going to be at the top of the pay scale at Kentucky, and they would be further down at Georgia. And so instead of being the 21st guy in Georgia's class, they're going to go be the second guy in Kentucky's class. And that's the new economic reality.
Kevin Chavis here said it's odd because apparently On3 and 247 both have composite rankings. They both average out all the recruiting services into a consensus ranking, but have different rankings. That doesn't make sense. It does, Kevin, because On3 has a different formula of weighting which services. Right? Am I right?
It's a weighted average, and both companies weight them differently.
And like we emphasize On3 and 247, if I'm not mistaken, because they have the largest, most robust staffs.
Which and it obviously it'll change because we have the
required rivals
coming
now,
aboard with us, so it'll be different in the coming years. But
that's why it's different, Kevin.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because this is how you have to do it at Alabama. That part of it, and I'm with you. It is, if you are an Alabama fan, you should be thrilled that Kalen DeBoer, that Courtney Morgan are looking at this like, we still have to go get the best players. We still definitely need to get them when they're in our city or when they're in our state. So Sedarian Morgan, Xavier Kroll, these are 2 5-stars who have committed in the last 2 weeks. They're state of Alabama guys. Like, they still want to make sure they dominate their state. And meanwhile, we're all counting Hugh Freeze golf rounds.
Well,
during this time, so
we'll get to that. Before we forget, can we do a state breakdown? I went and looked this up before the show.
Oh yeah.
Alabama's state breakdown for their 2026 class. They have, I believe, 19 commitments right now. Is that right, Andy?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. 19.
I think so. Yeah.
5 Bama, 4 Georgia, 2 California. 2 Florida, 1 California, 1 Illinois, 1 Indiana, 1 Maryland, 1 Mississippi, 1 Nebraska, 1 Ohio, 1 Tennessee. That's a pretty nice spread. You have half of your class from Alabama and Georgia. You pick off some important pieces in other states of guys that you like. For instance, they have a top 100 player athlete committed out of the state of Illinois. You go get that guy. But like that looks healthy to me. Like, I know people are like, people are kind of like, oh, they're not doing that great in the South. I think they're doing great in the South. They're doing fine in the South.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, the state of Alabama is not always going to be as robust in terms of prospects. There are up years and down years. Like Georgia, the state of Georgia has up years and down years, but like Georgia and Florida's up years and down years look different. There's still tons of players in both states. So you need to be effective recruiters in Georgia and effective recruiters in Florida if you're going to be the head coach at Alabama. And it seems like Kalen DeBoer understands the assignment. And I think that was probably the biggest frustration for Auburn fans with Brian Harsin.
He didn't understand
that he didn't understand the assignment. Hugh Freeze understands the assignment. We talked about this a few weeks ago. I think Hugh Freeze is in a different place. Like, we can make fun of him playing golf all we want. The fact of the matter is, they're not going to be able to put together attractive offers to high school prospects until Auburn proves that they can win under Hugh Freeze, because they're either going to win under Hugh Freeze this year and he's going to stay, and they'll put together a bunch of attractive offers and have this massive recruiting comeback in November, or they'll fire him and the next coach will be trying to get players with competitive offers.
Yeah. Which is an impossible situation to be in. And also, I would play golf in that situation too. Like
that's what Billy Napier was in last year. Now, I don't think he played that much golf, but that was his situation. I don't know what he does in his free time.
Let me ask you this. Do you go to Ferrari dealerships and look around?
No. No. You show up when you got the money and you're ready. But that's what happened at Florida last year is once they got some momentum, once it was clear he was coming back, then they started putting together competitive offers. And this time last year, their class was in the upper 50s. They wound up signing the 10th ranked class. Auburn, I suspect, will be similar if they're good enough for Hugh Freeze to stay. Alabama, meanwhile,
although I don't agree with it.
Why not?
I think that I don't know. I think that Auburn football, if they want to compete for a national championship, should operate under those pretenses 100% of the time.
That he's going to stay?
No, that they should just try to get as many good players on their team.
But you don't want to commit money to guys that the new coach might not want.
I think you can commit money to guys that every coach would want, is what I'm saying.
You can do that.
Yeah, I think that every coach
every coach would want are not going to go to the place where the guy might get fired. So that's the problem.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that if and I don't know, if Auburn even can do, they don't have a billionaire landman behind them. But if Auburn
they do have the CEO of Apple who's a grad, he just doesn't care that much.
He doesn't strike me as a football guy.
Yeah.
Apple needs to be investing in AI a little bit more. They don't need to be investing in football. Okay. If Felix
says the guy with a bunch of Apple stock.
Yeah. Hey, don't. Hey, what CNBC has to, they have to tell you if they're talking about their stock. If you hold it, I hold Apple stock, and you all should too, by the way. If Felix Ojo got the money that the offer from Auburn that
Texas Tech offered, yeah.
What do you think? And do you think that random coach replacing Hugh Freeze would want that guy on their roster?
Yes.
I think that's overthinking it a little bit. I think that Auburn should do its best to
But if you're Felix Ojo and you have similar offers from Auburn and Texas Tech, you're going to go play for Joey?
Buddy, I got to tell you something. And Joey's very familiar with this, but if friggin' Texas Tech goes 6-6 this year, you might not be there either next year.
You make a good point because they have made the investment. So
there's no guarantee in the sport that anybody's going to be anywhere ever. And also, too, Florida signed a really, really good class last year. By the time those players are,
he also could get fired. You're right. You're right.
Talking about.
You're right.
Even if Auburn goes 9-3 this year, are you telling me that Hugh Freeze isn't on the hot seat next year?
Maybe not.
Buddy, if they go 9-3 this year.
Also knowing Auburn's history, Ari, the way they react to a good season is immediately lock the coach down with a massive extension with a huge buyout. Hugh Freeze's buyout is very, very manageable by SEC standards this year.
Do you think that Auburn would react to 9-3 that way? Would you consider that?
I watched him do it with Gus Malzahn, and 2017 was a little bit. They did win the West.
They won.
So they were better than 9-3. I think
they went to the
10-2.
SEC championship game the last time.
Yeah. The third loss came in the SEC. Or no,
I don't know.
It was only the second loss.
I just would want as many good players on my team at all times as possible, and I would deal with the fallout of those things if and when they happen. That's the way I would approach it.
Yeah.
But I also, because it's there's no momentum there. You want your program to feel like there's momentum. Auburn fans are upset right now. I wouldn't want my fan base to be upset.
But that's the difference between you and Hugh. You'd be trying to make them happier, and he's playing golf.
But I don't know.
You got those Lane Kiffin tweets, River. Let's throw the Lane Kiffin tweets up there. Lane Kiffin retweeting a Hugh Freeze tweet from May where he's holding up a golf trophy. And Lane goes, "Great job, coach. Game is on fire." Lane Kiffin also keeps tweeting fishing photos at Hugh Freeze every time Ole Miss signs a player that Auburn wanted. And look, I say this as someone who's got a kid who's getting into golf now. I had to go buy clubs that play it against sports.
Oh, you did?
Well, I bought very basic used clubs because I got to make sure he actually wants to do this.
Yeah, right.
But fishing still far, far greater than golf as pastimes go. Far greater.
I've never been fishing, Andy, outside of like throwing the rod into like a lake and standing on land.
We got to take you. I mean, I'd love to take you deep sea fishing. But I don't know if we have time for that.
Deep sea fishing strikes me as a much more involved activity.
It is, but now there's a middle ground there. You can do inshore fishing in the saltwater where you've got action almost constantly if you're finding the right places, but it is not the equipment and all the other stuff that you have to deal with deep sea fishing. Because deep sea fishing, if you don't have the right equipment, if you don't have the people with the very specialized knowledge of what they're doing, it's not going to go very well. Inshore fishing, you can have a lot of fun, and it's not boring like throwing into a freshwater lake and praying there's a bass.
Time to hop on the phone or text or something. Like if you can conceivably recruit and do what you're doing on the golf course. I don't know, like if you're on I watched The Waterfront. Have you seen that show on Netflix?
I binged it very quickly. Yes,
excellent,
loved it.
Right? Those people are like busy. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yes, those are commercial fishermen. That's a little bit different. Yeah.
I mean, those people are. I mean, they're also peddling.
They're also running drugs.
Yeah, but
spoiler alert.
Great show if you haven't watched on Netflix. Me and my wife banged through that episode. That sounded weird. We crushed those. That sounded weird. We binged those episodes very quickly. They're only 45 minutes too. So, yeah, I don't know what it would feel like to bag a fish like that though. Like that's got to be a really
the one on the screen is a massive. Yeah, that's you're way out hundreds of feet deep water. Like you have very specialized equipment. I'm talking about going and getting redfish.
The ocean is the scariest place on earth. But speaking of activities that Jews do, this is a good segue to.
Here we go. All right, all right. Enough frivolity. We do have to be somewhat sensitive with this particular one because this Jake Retzlaff story is very strange. So he's the BYU quarterback. He was coming back for this season. He actually probably got some interest from other schools in the offseason, but decides to come back to BYU. He has a lawsuit filed against him in civil court accusing him of sexual assault. His attorneys respond to this lawsuit by saying there was consensual sex, but it was consensual and it's not sexual assault. If he went to any other school, it would then play out from there of who's telling the truth. Because he goes to BYU, his admission of having premarital sex is a violation of BYU's honor code. And therefore, he was going to be suspended. The reporting is that it would have been 7 games that he would be suspended. So when it comes out that he's going to get suspended, his people make it clear that he's probably going to move on. And immediately, the case gets dropped. Once it's clear he's leaving BYU, the case gets dropped. So I don't know how much more we want to opine on that, but it's very strange.
Yeah, very strange. And also very serious. And I think we all can come up with our own opinions about the BYU honor code and all those different things. I don't think it's our place to provide those opinions. But I think what's interesting here, Andy, and what our listeners should hear from us is like what is next from a football standpoint. And
right.
Nikos wrote a story for On3. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? He just wrote it. I read it last
it came out this weekend. And so it's interesting because also last week, the NCAA said we're going to open the transfer portal this one time in the summer. And it's almost like an expansion draft.
Right.
Where basically teams put out a list of players they might have cut anyway. And those players are allowed to, if they're on that list, you can go into the transfer portal and go seek somewhere else to play. And this is because of the roster limits coming in because of the House settlement. Presumably, BYU can just put Jake Retzlaff on the list because he said, I'm not coming back. And they can take the roster spot. And so they can just put him on the list and he can enter the portal.
But that, from my understanding, is up to BYU to do. And I don't know if BYU will with somebody.
And I would think BYU could just release him from his scholarship anyway. And then he could just go somewhere else because he's been cut effectively by BYU.
Yeah.
I don't think BYU's fighting this. Like, I don't think they're trying to make him stay at this point.
Very, very interesting. And like, I don't know. And I honestly don't know, Andy. I guess we're kind of like at the mercy of waiting, but like if he'll be playing somewhere this year or not.
But the thing is, if Jake Retzlaff hits the portal, there are quite a few schools I think that would be interested.
We can't guarantee that BYU will oblige this, right?
We can't guarantee it, but if he does, they're going to be. Let's put it this way: I would be nervous if I was a starting quarterback or thought I was going to win a starting job, but wasn't real sure that I'd won it.
Yeah, or
he hits the portal.
Yeah, I mean he can play. So, that we know. And that window, I believe, opens today. On
yes, July 7th. It does. It does. So we'll probably get some more information on this. And okay, so programming note, I'm flying to Dallas tonight. Gonna hang with Ari. We're going to Big 12 Media Days. We'll be at Big 12 Media Days Tuesday and Wednesday. So we'll see Kalani Sitake there. We may have some clarity on this by the time the BYU contingent gets to Big 12 Media Days. But that is going to be obviously one of the more interesting subplots of Big 12 Media Days. We'll see Joey McGuire. We can ask him, for a loan.
Maybe.
Because he's spending money.
I mean, if Texas Tech has an in-house podcast that they need hosted.
Ooh. I don't think we'd be allowed to do that, but I mean, I think they'd be willing to buy us out of our contracts.
Do you think we could do a daily Texas Tech podcast?
We could do anything for enough money.
Yeah, I could figure it out.
So BYU's there on Tuesday. BYU's there tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think that like we need to make sure that this distinction with Jake Retzlaff is made. He is not leaving BYU because of the accusations. He is leaving BYU because having premarital sex is an infraction.
It's a violation of their honor
code. So he is still dealing with the allegations in civil court, but the reason why
the case has been dropped.
I'm sorry, he would have been.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that the accusations aren't the reason he's suspended or not playing. It's
correct.
The honor code violation.
It's his admission in his own defense of the accusations. And I wondered when the initial case dropped. My first thought was, well, they're going to have to say it was consensual. And if they do, that's an honor code violation. That was the first thought.
I was like, either way, he was in a sexual situation. And like, we've spent a lot of time in the past discussing BYU. And like, if they turned on the money cannon for NIL and to promote Mormonism and stuff, I think that this kind of made me change my mind about that. It's
a very different situation than almost any other school in the country.
Because like that, it's like no drinking and all that stuff. But like, it's very hard to stop young men from feeling those feelings. So, or for acting on those feelings, especially in a position to do so. And I feel like that is just it's a tough situation to go into for a lot of people who don't like, especially if you're not somebody of the faith. So, that I don't know if I have anything else to add on this, Andy, but we'll see what happens. We'll hear from Kalani Sitake tomorrow and we'll probably have a better idea what's going on. But that this portal opening, you're not going to see a lot of players that in there. It's going to be a lot of guys who would not have been on their rosters or would have been getting cut because of space concerns. Yeah.
So,
I mean, who was the last supplemental NFL draft pick that like was of note? The last one I remember,
Terrell Pryor.
Yeah, like so. But yeah, we're headed to Big 12 Media Days this week, Andy, and I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah.
Football season is starting, and it's going to be good to be back in the same building with a lot of our friends and colleagues. And man, our show's going to be good this week. I mean, like I don't know.
One more news story that we haven't talked about yet, though, Ari, and this one sucks. Like poor Charles Jagusah.
Oh yeah.
Notre Dame offensive lineman. Remember, he got hurt in preseason camp last year and missed most of the season. He got back in for the last 2 games. But he broke his arm in a UTV accident over the weekend. And so they said the prognosis is positive, that he should be able to recover, but we don't know what that means for this season for him. He was playing guard at the end of last season. He was supposed to be the starting left tackle. Anthony Knapp came in and became the starting left tackle. And remember, Notre Dame lost 2 starting offensive linemen who started the national championship game because those guys probably weren't going to have jobs as starters this year. It's interesting that they are deep enough. Like there's a way that they can absorb the Jagusah injury and still probably be okay.
Probably would have liked to have
just
one
a
of them.
testament to how deep they are.
Yeah. But also too, probably would have liked to keep one of the guys who left in this situation now. But that's a tough blow. And as somebody who's had to overcome this before. So, we'll keep our eyes on Notre Dame, but like it is a tough break for sure.
Yeah,
for him and the team.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but it'll be interesting because it may require some moving around again. Like last year, Anthony Knapp was not supposed to be the left tackle. He played left tackle. If you were going to have Jagusah at right guard, Anthony Knapp might be the one you move to guard, and then maybe Gary Lambert starts at one of the tackle spots. Emil Wagner's already at one of the tackle spots, so it's interesting because I was kind of wondering. Gary Lambert was a massive recruit in the class of 2024. Who remember we started the show talking about Felix Ojo and how few guys like that exist in the world.
Yeah,
Gary Lambert's one of those guys, and so they were going to have to figure out how to get him on the field anyway. This might force that their hand on that one.
Yep.
So, Ari, I will be seeing you very shortly. Folks in the chat, if you got questions for the Big 12 coaches, we're going to be talking to all of them. We're not sure if we're going to get to talk to Dion. We think we might.
I texted Annie, I'm like, are we getting Dion?
But he's had the health issue, but he's in Dallas.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I hope. Here's the thing. We're talking to, right now, as we're recording this, we believe every Big 12 coach.
Yeah.
I don't know if every Big 12 coach will make the show, but we'll do our best to be as entertaining and interesting as possible with all of them, and then we'll cut it up. But we have our own room, our own booth.
What questions do we need to ask these guys? Chat, tell us. What do you want us to hear to be asking these guys? And we can talk more about this tomorrow because we'll be at the facility tomorrow before things get kicked off. We'll do the show tomorrow morning, and then everything gets going later in the morning.
Yeah. And we have a nice hour-long drive to the Star together where we can brainstorm. But it's going to be a fun time, and it feels like football season again, guys. So
it is Big 12 this week, SEC next week, Big 10 and ACC the following week.
Viva!
Oh yeah, the Big 10's in Vegas. But I will tell you, from having been to a Big 12 media days at the Star, Jerry puts on a good show. Do you think we can get Kenny Dillingham to do the worm for us? I think he's now moved up in the world too much for that.
Yeah, I don't know. We can try. He's gonna be wearing a suit, so I don't know.
Even better.
Yeah, there is a sports card shop in the Star too. If you want to go spend money.
Well, that's probably not a bad idea. And I'll have to drag you out of there, I'm sure. We are not wearing suits. Ari and I had the conversation about dress code yesterday. Because I've done that where I've worn a suit at SEC Media Days to kind of fit with the coaches and players.
You even put a flower on your lapel.
I do.
Yeah.
It's a tribute to the great Ed Ashoff.
Yeah.
Who always did that. But we're not doing that this time. Because we gotta be mobile. We gotta be able to move. Because the players are gonna be downstairs. And I definitely want to talk to Spencer Fano. For sure.
Yeah, we do
There's
the
a bunch of
show.
other players I'm excited about.
We do the show, and then we go to the event and do reporting, and then in the afternoon, my understanding is we get the coaches. So it's going to be a full
Correct.
day of Big 12 football on the mind. So we will be diving into that, and I think that's exciting. There's a lot of interesting Big 12 teams.
But you know what this really means? If we boil it all down, Ari, we made it. We made it through the offseason. The offseason's over.
I didn't know if I was allowed to celebrate it, but we did.
Oh, no. Celebrate now, because we're getting fresh football content starting tomorrow. Not us trying to contrive something, not playing a game show. New stuff from the actual coaches and players starts tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, we did it. Happy football season. Let's go. We'll see you tomorrow.